Ever notice how you're always the one holding everything together? Like, you just don't get the luxury to fall apart. That straight face you hold even when you're exhausted, down to your bones, that didn't happen by accident. And if you grew up in the 70s or 80s, you already know this feeling hits different, in a way you don't even talk about. You weren't simply raised, you were shaped. Because the world you came from hardwired you in ways today's generation wouldn't even understand. And the wild part? Those old instincts still run your life quietly every single day, without you even realizing it. And once you finally see the real reason behind it, it'll explain more about your life than you ever thought possible. So when you see a title like Psychology of People Who Grew Up in the 1970s to 1980s, it doesn't just name a decade. It calls out the wiring you carry, the stuff you never learned to talk about but still shapes every reaction you have. And that thumbnail, People Who Grew Up 1970s to 1980s, that's calling out a mindset, a way of handling pressure, responsibility, and emotion that only your generation truly understands. Kids today get explanations. You got expectations. Simple as that. You weren't raised with bubble wrap. You were shaped by real weight, real consequences, and a world that didn't care if you were ready. And that's why this video isn't about looking back. It's about finally decoding your psychology, the strength, the habits, the guard you built, and the part of you most people never see. Think back for a second. You remember how you could vanish for hours? No phone, no check-ins, no one tracking you. Back then it felt like freedom, but here's the twist most people never realize. That same freedom trained your brain to handle everything alone. You didn't just learn independence, you learned silence. You learned to deal with pressure quietly, to fix things yourself, to not bother anybody. And that wiring didn't disappear when you grew up. That's why today, even when you're overwhelmed, your first instinct is still, I'll figure it out. Growing up in the 70s or 80s gave you grit, sure, but it also left you carrying weight you never learned to put down. And that's where the psychology gets even deeper. Here's the crazy part. The way you move through life today isn't random at all. Growing up in the 70s or 80s built a whole different wiring in you. Like, your mind still runs on an older, tougher operating system. You learn to stay calm even when you're breaking inside, to push through instead of pause, to handle responsibility before you even think about yourself. That's why asking for help feels wrong, admitting you're tired feels like failure, and carrying everyone else's load feels normal. Your generation wasn't taught to talk about feelings. You were taught to survive them. And that wiring never disappeared. It still shows up today in ways you don't even notice. But here's the part nobody ever tells you. Some of the things you do today aren't quirks, they're leftovers from the way you were trained to survive. Ever notice how you apologize for things that aren't even your fault? Or how you jump into fix-it mode before you even process how you feel? You don't call it stress, you just call it handling it. That's the 70s, 80s wiring, kicking in without asking permission. You were taught to be steady, strong, unshakable, even when you're exhausted on the inside. And the quiet part is this. Those old instincts still slip into your everyday actions, shaping your reactions, your boundaries, and even the way you love, without you ever noticing. Here's the truth nobody says out loud. The same instincts that tire you out are the ones that kept your whole life steady. You didn't just learn responsibility, you learned resilience. You didn't just hold it together, you became the person everyone else leaned on. And the way you take care of people, that's not pressure. That's strength, built from decades of figuring things out the hard way, long before life came with instructions. The world may have changed, but your wiring didn't freeze. It adapted. And half the things you call flaws are really proof that you've carried life with more grit, more patience, and more heart than you ever give yourself credit for. And here's the part you deserve to hear. Nothing about the way you turned out is accidental. You didn't survive that era, you grew through it. All those habits you carry, all those instincts you don't talk about, they came from a lifetime of showing up even when nobody checked if you were okay. And maybe you don't give yourself enough credit for that. Maybe you forget how rare your kind of strength really is. But trust me, the way you stay steady, the way you love, the way you keep going, it says more about you than you realize. And once you start seeing it too, a lot of things about your past and your present finally start making sense.